I saw in the thing that your name is Elizabeth, and I'm not sure if that's what you go by.
I mean, Liz would be the best.
Okay,
so,
Liz
yeah,
would be the best.
definitely.
Okay, all right, great. So Liz, one of the things I wanted to talk with you about is I know that you did some assessments over the last couple of days, and so I wanted to talk with you about that and just talk with you about kind of treatment and how things are going to go. And based on that, it sounds like that from what you were saying in terms of the assessment process, that you have an eating disorder. It's called bulimia nervosa, and I'm not sure if you've ever heard of that.
I mean, a little bit, yeah.
Okay, so what I want to do is kind of describe that for you a little bit. So what you talked about was that there are periods of time when you have eating episodes where you eat like kind of a large amount of food, that you feel like that you've lost control, and that you feel, like overly full, maybe vomit, and that this happens fairly regularly. And there are times too when you're maybe really overly concerned about your shape or your weight. And does that feel familiar to you?
Yeah.
So, and then it sounds like that's been going on now for quite some time, at least, 2, 3, sometimes even upwards of 5 times a week.
Yeah, I'd say,
Okay,
at times.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I just want to let you know too about that it's not unusual for a person like in college, like yourself, to be struggling with an eating disorder like this. In fact, we see upwards of 5% of women on college campuses who struggle with that, and even more, upwards of 20% who have, kind of what we would call kind of variants of that in terms of excessive dieting, and some women may even like throw up or use laxatives or excessively exercise. So it's not unusual. One of the things we know about bulimia nervosa is that for a lot of women, it really starts by excessive dieting. So like going for long periods of time without eating. And sounds like that was something that you endorsed as well, that there are times when you kind of diet excessively.
Yeah, especially when I was younger, I'd say, but yeah.
One of the things that we know about bulimia nervosa is that when people overly restrict or, stop eating a lot or go for, a day and a half and really restrict their calories, that oftentimes that kind of leads into that kind of binge eating cycle. And we know that that's the case. The other thing that we're aware of is that a lot of individuals who struggle with eating difficulties like this also report a lot of difficulties they have, like with managing stress or managing relationships, or have a difficult time knowing what they're feeling or managing feelings. Is that something that you've experienced? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's okay, because in many respects, I think both things go on for individuals that struggle with eating difficulties like that. And so we know that there's a lot of dieting and restriction that goes on, but we also know that there are other things that are happening in terms of managing feelings, managing stress, etc. So one of the things that I like to focus on in terms of working with clients and working with individuals like yourself is I take an approach that's called interpersonal psychotherapy. And what that means in essence is that I like to approach the eating problem by looking at kind of the social and kind of more interpersonal context, because there's a lot of things that are probably going on or may have gone on in your life that have been kind of associated with times when you've been more likely to use food or to restrict your calorie intake. And so what I would like to do is really talk with you over the next few sessions about periods of time in your life currently and in the past where you've had overeating episodes, and when you've restricted your calories, when you've lost weight, or when you've binged and things like that, and really start looking at patterns perhaps in your relationships. And then what we'll do is kind of sum that up at the end of the time that we're together and see if we can kind of come up with a little bit of a game plan and some goals to help you reduce your binge eating. So how's that sound?
Sounds good, yeah.
Okay, good. And there's really good evidence for the things that we're going to be doing. In fact, the more that we work on some of these issues, you'll note pretty quickly that you're going to start feeling a lot better, and it'll have a pretty positive impact on your eating. Okay, great. So this is what I'd like to do is first of all, let's start with I want you to give me a recent episode where, like just recently within the last couple days, where you've had one of those episodes that you talked about where you felt like you ate a lot, that you lost control, and that you ended up vomiting, or and we'll and kind of get an idea about that. And then what I'd like to do is, and we'll go kind of back in time, and then I want you to tell me the first time that you had an episode like that. So, and then what we'll do then over the next couple of sessions is then we'll start from when it started and kind of like work our way up to the present. And I'll just ask you a lot of questions, and we'll kind of go from there, right? So why don't you tell me tell me like a recent episode where you felt like that you'd lost control of your eating.
I mean, like just this Saturday night, I guess. So went out with my friends, and I mean, it was fun. It was a good night at first and whatnot. And we then went to a party. I guess what kind of sparked it would be I saw this guy that I kind of liked for a little while, and I mean, I just was a little nervous about kind of what I was wearing, and it just didn't feel that good to see him. So I kind of left pretty early on and went home or back to my apartment. And yeah, I mean, kind of what typically happens is in the kitchen grabbing some different foods, bag of chips. I think my roommate had left out like a sleeve of cookies or something, and I just ate on the couch. Yeah, finished most of it, and yeah.
Okay. Had you been restricting your food, for the prior to that, or had you been dieting prior to that?
I mean, I guess like dieting is what you would consider it. I try to eat more healthy typically. And yeah, I mean, I've been like dealing with like, different assignments and stress around that. So yeah, it's kind of fluctuated at times.
Okay. I meant to tell you too, I like to take a lot of notes, at least initially, so I have a good sense of what's going on. So what else was going on? Okay, so it sounds like Saturday night, out with friends, see a person that you like, that did you say you dated some?
Not really, but like we've kind of been like interested in each other.
Interested in each other.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry. Okay, so you're kind of interested.
Yeah.
And then it sounds like then you began to feel more concerned about how you looked and how your outfit felt.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like plan on seeing him.
Right.
So
yeah,
it just I didn't feel like it was the right outfit to see him.
Okay, and so that then what happened then is that you go back to the apartment, food's there, and then you kind of sat down on the couch and you felt like that you had lost control.
Yeah, and then I guess after that, like before bed, I made sure to go into the bathroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this kind of a typical scenario?
Yeah, I mean, the eating close before bed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so you went home to an apartment. You're in school, so tell me about that.
Junior year. So my third year in school.
And what are you working on?
English as my major.
Okay.
So I guess junior year is kind of the more tough year, more papers and whatnot.
Yeah.
School was going well, like especially freshman year was pretty fun. Last year was good. This year, it's just been a little more work and a little more stress.
Yeah, because I was thinking about the time of the year. So is it exams coming up or any projects coming up? So anything big on the horizon for you?
I mean, like midterms.
Okay.
Big midterms, yeah.
Okay. What else has been going on? What else has been happening for you, let's say like over the last week or so? Anything, so this is obviously pretty, significant thing, dieting and, see this guy and at the party, but anything else that's been happening this week?
Studying for one of my midterms, and like on Thursday night, my test was on Friday, and my roommate kind of has had her boyfriend over a lot, and it's pretty annoying because like she knew I had a test to study for, and like I like being home to study. I don't want to be in the library. Like I want to be in my room on my bed, and they're constantly in the living room, on the couch, and yeah, they're pretty loud, so it's kind of frustrating, and yeah, it was pretty stressful.
Okay. Sounds like it. And what's your roommate's name?
Kathy.
Kathy. Okay. Okay. So then Kathy has her roommate over quite often. This last week, they were there quite a bit.
Her boyfriend.
Her boyfriend. Okay. And then you were trying to study, and did you talk with them about that in terms of the noise or that bothering you?
I mean, she knew I had a midterm coming up.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and like I've mentioned that I enjoy studying at home, but that's kind of
Okay.
all.
So it sounds like you feel like that you've tried to let her know in various ways that, you've got something coming up and that you like studying when it's quiet and you like to be able to focus, but that sounds like that their kind of constant commotion is really distressing to you, right? Have you talked with her like one-to-one about how that bothers you or that's a real problem for you?
Not really.
Okay. Do you know what's hard about doing that in terms of talking with her?
I mean, we're kind of like newer roommates to
Okay.
each other, or we were introduced, so we haven't known each other for.
Okay, I got it.
long.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. Okay. Okay, all right, that's helpful. Has this been something that's been kind of ongoing with, how long have you been roommates with Kathy?
This semester.
Okay, and has this been kind of an issue that's gone on for the two of you for a while in terms of her being disruptive or having the boyfriend over?
Yeah, I mean, he's over a lot.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's helpful. Okay, all right. Tell me how old you are.
20.
Okay. Okay, and you're a junior. Okay, great. Now let's do this. Let's go back to the first time that you can remember having like an episode like you described, where you felt like that you either lost control of your eating or that you were, concerned about your shape or your weight, and then we'll start kind of working our way forward. So, when was the first time that you remember that happening?
I guess middle school, so, or 8th grade, probably 12 or 13 years
Okay.
old.
Middle school, 12, 13 years old. Good. So we'll start from there. Tell me about your parents.
So my mom, Lisa, my dad is Steve. They actually got divorced when I was 10.
Okay.
So she then remarried soon after.
Okay. Okay. So your mom and dad divorced when you were 10. Okay. And so, all right. So okay. That's helpful. And then you said your mom got remarried.
Like 2 years after that.
Okay. Okay. You have any siblings?
Well, I do now from her second marriage. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And is that a boy or a little sister? And what's her name?
Brooke.
Brooke. Okay. So mom remarried. What's your stepdad's name?
Bruce.
Bruce.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought I told you.
Okay. All right. So mom and Bruce, they have a little girl and her name is Brooke. Okay. How old is Brooke?
Brooke is 6.
Oh, she's 6. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So tell me a little bit about before we get to middle school, tell me a little bit about what happened with during the divorce and, kind of leading up to that.
You mean like after, or what led up to the divorce?
Yeah, kind of. Do you have a sense about what led up to the divorce or what was going
I
on?
mean, I guess they were like fighting a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, those are probably my most memorable memories.
Okay.
Yeah, lots of fighting, and Dad they weren't around each other as much anymore, and Mom was kind of out of the house more.
Okay. And then, so then they divorced when you were 10, and so then how soon after did your mom marry Bruce?
Just under 2 years.
Under 2 years, okay. How was that for you to have her remarry so quickly?
I mean, I didn't really like it.
Okay, yeah. Okay. During that period of time, because I know you talk about middle school, but during the period of time when they were having difficulties with their marriage, what was your what was your eating like, or how are you managing that during that time in terms of your feelings about the?
When I was 10,
Mm-hmm.
that's tough. I mean, I guess I didn't really recognize too many issues right then necessarily.
Were you talking to anybody, or anybody? Were you able? Did anybody else know what was going on, or?
I mean, I was like pretty close with my grandma, my dad's mom.
Okay. And she was aware of what was happening.
Yeah,
Okay.
she was. Yeah, so she was definitely there for me.
Okay.
And I'm closer with my dad, I'd say.
Okay.
Even at that time.
And it sounds like that you're pretty close. You're pretty close to your dad's mom.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's not around anymore, but yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. When did she pass away? Or?
High school.
Okay. So, all right. I just want to make a note of that. Okay. All right. So, yeah, I definitely want to make sure that we talk a little bit about that. Okay. So, at 10, your mom and dad divorce. Less than 2 years, your mom remarries, marries Bruce. Then what happened? What happened to you after the divorce? Were you with your dad, with your mom?
No, with my mom more. We moved to a different area.
Okay.
Not too far from my dad. So I saw him like a decent amount, but definitely was with my mom more.
Okay. So then Bruce, your mom and Bruce and because I know you were spending more time with her, moved to what, like a different town, different?
Yeah, just like a town over.
Okay.
But changed schools and whatnot.
Okay. All right. So prior to moving to a new school, were you in a public school or private school?
So I was in a public school.
Okay.
And then switched to a private school.
Oh, switched to private school. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. How was that transition for you, going from public school to private school?
I wasn't excited about it.
Okay.
It was kind of like a more uppity area, and it was kind of hard because I feel like in a private school these people have kind of been together for a little while, and because there's less people there, they kind of more so all know each other and have their groups and whatnot. So.
Okay. And so then that would have been in around the time when you were 12, 13 when you made that move? Okay. So then sounds like, too, that was the time when you first were aware of struggling with your eating?
Yeah, I think I started I felt like more pressure from my mom. She was very vocal towards me about my eating and my looks and whatnot.
Oh, that you felt, when you say pressure from her, in what way was she pressuring you?
She wanted me to look good.
Okay, or what, so that you would fit in more, or okay?
Say all right.
So. Okay.
Knowing her, yeah.
Okay, and it sounds like that what you were saying was that. Well, I asked you how you felt, and you said you weren't excited. You weren't excited. Like I wasn't excited, but.
I don't really, yeah.
So so did that mean that you weren't? It sounds like you weren't happy.
Yeah, I don't really like Bruce, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't really like Bruce, and you didn't really like the new school, and you didn't like that transition. Okay. Did you talk with anybody about that? Did you let your mom know or let your dad know how kind of you were unhappy?
Let them know that I didn't like the school.
Okay, and then when you would do that, what would be the response?
It's kind of just like, oh, you should feel lucky, it's a good school.
Okay.
It just takes time.
Okay. Well, so in many ways, I know I might be putting words in your mouth, but what, kind of get over it, or deal with it, or, okay. So, and so then you were feeling pressure from her. Sounds like also too that you weren't really feeling like that they were really, that maybe there wasn't as much concern about your feelings about where you were. Was there anything specifically that your mom would say to you about that in terms of kind of the get over it, that?
You mean in terms of the school or my body?
Yeah, in terms of the school.
I mean, like, get over it. Like, it'll get better with time. Like, you just have to put yourself out there to meet people.
Okay. All right. So that kind of pressure.
Yeah.
And then you said that you didn't really like Bruce. What kind of person was he? I mean, what was making you not like him so well?
I mean, he's just kind of like a sketchy guy.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, he didn't really like try to get to know me that well. And it's just like the timing of it all was just like a little off. And I feel like he kind of like is the one who partially caused the divorce.
In what way do you think that?
It was so soon.
Oh, so that maybe that there was something going on between Bruce and your mom prior to the divorce? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Must have been really hard. Yeah. And were you keeping in touch with your dad during that time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, what was the arrangement? Were you spending time with him sometimes and spending time with your mom?
Yeah, so I was with my mom during the week, and I got to see my dad like every other weekend.
Okay. So then, given the fact that, so you weren't happy in school, you said that it was more kind of an uppity school, private school, kids, was it a mixed school or was it like an all-girls school?
No, mixed.
It was mixed school. And that kind of cliquey, it sounds like, and then your mom really, sounds like she really was pressuring you, really wanted to try to pressuring you so that you fit in a little bit better. So when in this process did you find yourself like turning to food or being excessively concerned about your weight or starting to diet, binge, things like that?
Dieting is definitely, I guess, like 8th grade.
Okay.
9th grade, definitely.
Okay.
And that definitely came from like my mom thinking or telling me that to look a certain way to fit in. And then there were times like there was unhealthy food around the house because that's what Bruce eats, and it was there and accessible, and so at times like I would eat that as well.
Right.
But I would say for the most part I would try to like really eat and restrict myself to healthy food.
Okay. And do you recall the first time that you then vomited or used vomiting as a way to kind of like manage the overeating?
I guess like 9th grade.
So that started in 9th grade. Yeah, okay. All right. What was going on during 9th grade? I mean, in terms of so divorce, moved to a new school, not really happy, feeling some pressure from your mom. Sounds like that they weren't really all that interested in your dissatisfaction and kind of wanted you to just kind of suck it up and get used to it. So then you're kind of trying to fit in, you're doing a little bit more dieting, and then in 9th grade, then the vomiting starts. So what was going on during that time?
I mean, just like pressures of like starting high school and whatnot. I mean, the same school, same people, didn't really, still wasn't happy. Hard to make friends. I don't know, I guess I heard from some of the other girls about like vomiting as like an option that they've heard some of their friends talk about before.
Right.
Okay. And like the dieting, even though if I was eating healthy, like I would still hear from my mom, like, oh, like you need to look like this, or there's this outfit I want you to wear, but you can't wear it like if your body's like that.
Oh, so she was really critical of how you looked.
Very critical.
Okay. And so then what did that do? Well, let me just take a step back. So it sounds like that you've always been a little closer to your dad.
Yeah.
So then what, with the divorce and the move and some of that transition, what effect did that have on your relationship with your mom?
I mean, I don't even really remember like a really good time with my mom.
Okay.
I guess I'd say.
Okay. All right. So the two of you don't get along as well.
No, we butt heads a lot.
Okay. Was it kind of the same during that time, or was it getting worse?
I mean, I guess I was getting more vocal towards her and
Okay.
like, speaking my mind more.
Okay. All right. And then she was then coming back more harshly or more critically? Okay. All right. Okay. Well, it's not unusual. I mean, a couple things. It's certainly not unusual for, girls at that age, in terms of like kind of the social influence or kind of the social contagion of, with eating and diet, binge eating and dieting and vomiting. So it sounds like that was kind of, in some respects, part of that culture. But it also sounds like that there, in terms of the external pressure that you were getting from your mom to look a particular way, it almost even sounded like that she was saying that you were like what, that you were too heavy for a particular outfit, and so then I'm sure that do you remember how that was feeling to you at that time when she would say things like that?
It sucked.
Yeah.
Because I felt like nothing I could do.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot
So
of
kind of,
pressure.
all right, kind of trapped. Did you talk with anybody about that? Did you talk with your dad about that, or?
It's like, no, not really.
Okay.
I don't really have.
Okay. So you kept a lot of those feelings to yourself. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, that's helpful. Let's kind of hang on to that, because we've got a couple things. Because obviously, I think the divorce, the move, the transition from middle school to high school, also sounds though that also during that time that obviously you didn't have a very good relationship with Bruce to begin with. And that your relationship with your mom was kind of deteriorating. Yeah. And then I know you said your grandmother passed away when you were in high school, but during that time, like, the 8th, 9th grade, did you have more contact with her? Were you able to, like, connect with her
A
at all?
little bit, as much as I could.
Okay.
She also, she didn't live in the town where I was living.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, when I would see my dad, like, occasionally we got to see him.
Okay. Let me think. Okay. So if Brooke is 6, okay. All right, I'm just doing my math here. Okay, so she was born in around that time.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So around when you were 14. Okay. So then Brooke is born. Okay. Okay, very good. How was that for you in terms of having her kind of like come on the scene?
I love Brooke. Like,
Yeah.
we're really close, and I love her. But, it's a little frustrating. So, as an only child, and then your mom gets remarried, and soon after a new baby. And I know there's also, like, my mom and my stepdad, like, they both worked a lot. So there's also, like, I was kind of the one looking after Brooke a lot.
Okay, so then, right, so not only was your relationship with your mom kind of deteriorating, then all of a sudden she's pregnant, she delivers, you have a baby sister, they're working, and now not only are you kind of feeling distressed about your relationship with her, but now you're also feeling the pressure to take care of a baby sister. Okay, and so during that time you are feeling what?
I don't know, just a little heavy, like a lot of weight on my shoulders.
Okay, emotional weight on your shoulders.
a lot.
Yeah. And then what was your eat? So then that would have been like, years like 14 maybe to 16 when you were more actively involved with that. What was your eating like during that time?
I guess kind of similar to like what I described kind of now with.
Okay.
I like try to eat like super healthy
Right.
but then at times, like especially because there was the food available around the house and whatnot.
So were you binging more during that time then?
Yeah, and because I kind of found other ways to make up for the binging.
Okay, all right. Such as?
Throwing up.
So vomiting. Okay, so then that kind of that started during that particular time. Yeah. Okay, all right. Okay, that's really helpful to get that. Okay. So take me then to, well, let me take a step back. Sounds like you didn't really feel very connected in. Was there anybody that you felt close to in high school? Did you have any friends? Did you have any friends from your old school that you continued with? Who were your kind of social connections during that time?
I guess I try to keep in touch with friends from my old school. It was tough because they all had new friends. I met a few people, but nothing no one I really open to. But I had a couple friends too.
Okay. Did anybody like emerge as like a best friend or a really good friend during that time, or?
I just one of my friends from when I was really young.
Okay. And what's her name?
Julia.
Julia. Okay. So did you and Julia still kind of maintain contact during that time?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Did Julia know what was going on with you? Or did you ever talk with her about kind of like the stress you were under? Or
Like she knew I didn't like my stepdad and that
Okay.
like Brooke being born. And,
Right. So at least she was one person that you could kind of confide in a little bit.
a little bit.
Did she know about the struggles you were having with your eating or with your binge
I
eating?
don't know like specifically if she
Okay.
did.
Okay.
Yeah, like we never really talked about
Okay.
it.
Okay.
I knew like she knew that like my mom like put a lot of pressure on me.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay, that's helpful. So, so Julia was then kind of a source of support for you during that time. It also sounds like your grandmother was, but then you had also mentioned early on that your grandmother died in high school.
During that time.
Okay. And so when did she pass away?
I was 16.
Okay, when you were 16. Okay. What was that like for you when she died?
It was hard. We were really, I mean, I looked up to her a lot.
Uh-huh.
And then, like, my mom, for some reason, didn't want me to go to the funeral. Like, I don't even know why. Because she doesn't like me being, like, so connected to my...
To your dad's family? Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, so there was kind of, like, an argument there about going to the funeral, and I had my dad get involved to make sure... Yeah.
And so were you able to eventually go?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I know that in terms of just your overall sadness with her death, and and kind of how close you were. And this might be kind of a tough question to answer, but did you notice any changes in your binge eating or your vomiting in and around the time when your grandmother died?
I don't think so.
Okay, you don't think so? Okay, okay, okay. Okay, I was just wondering, because sometimes stressful situation, people passing away can have an impact, but it sounds like...
I feel like it may have even more just been like the fight with my mom. Like,
okay, okay, all right. So during that time when you were arguing, you noticed more... Okay, all right. Okay, all right. So, okay, that's helpful. So then take me to... in and around when you were getting ready to transition from high school to college. So then, what, 17, 18? Okay, so what was going on during that time?
I mean, well, actually, soon before that, my mom and Bruce actually also got divorced.
Oh, okay. So, all right, so then...
I was like 17, so probably the, like, middle of senior year.
Okay, so then the middle of your senior year, then your mom and Bruce get divorced. Okay. All right, so 17, mom and Bruce divorce. Okay, and what was that time like for you? Because then obviously then Brooke is, then she's about 2 years old, right? No, she'd be 4. Okay, she's 4 years old, okay. Okay, so what was going on then?
I mean, I never really got close to Bruce, but I would say the only like hard part would have been like kind of figuring out with Brooke, because I feel like I raised her almost.
Right.
Yeah, no, that was tough, and it's just like frustrating that like my mom left my dad and then gets married and then divorced again. And,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then what did that do to how did that impact your relationship with your mom after, in and around the divorce?
I mean, we're still arguing
Okay.
a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
She like kind of like started like trying to say sorry and like feeling bad for certain things, but like it was not like I didn't feel like it was sincere.
Right.
Anything.
Okay, so it's almost as though that now she didn't have anybody, and you felt like that she was kind of like trying to reach out to you, and like almost like too little, too late, or okay. So then, sounds like continued kind of like anger and frustration with her, and then did you notice any changes in your eating during that time?
I mean, it's definitely still.
Okay. All right. Okay. 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 And after graduation, then you're in college now. So then, Tell me about that transition from high school to college.
I mean, I was excited. Hard to leave Brooke, but like definitely excited to get out of the house, to like really try my own thing, something new.
Okay.
So that was